Hello and welcome to me, Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson, to this special Motor Trade Radio podcast brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. So again, many thanks for joining us in this latest in our series of special interviews themed around sharing best practices as car retailers manage their way through the COVID-19 crisis. Previous interviews with people such as Darren Edwards from Sitner's Group, Virtue Motors Robert Forrester, Marshall Motors Dash Gupta and many more are still available to stream online from Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify and motortraderadio.com.
For this episode, we're delighted to welcome to the show Clive Brook, Managing Director of Clive Brook Volvo, formed in 2001 and representing the Swedish brand in Bradford and Huddersfield. So welcome to the show, Clive.
Welcome to you too, and thank you for inviting me. I feel honoured after the list of names you've just called out.
No, you're more than welcome. You're in good company. So, Clive, with the business now reopened for a full month, we've obviously got lots to talk about. But can we perhaps start with just a little bit on your background, as your story is particularly interesting, as you've been associated with Volvo all your working life as both an employee and now owner of the Volvo Group. And I also understand it was at your Huddersfield site where you actually first started your career back in 1982. So can you take us through your journey with Volvo?
Yes, it does seem a long time ago, but I was very lucky actually to be sort of taken under the wing of an apprenticeship scheme with Olaf Olssons, who were the Volvo dealers in Huddersfield at the time. I'd applied for a job really just to see me through the summer, and Olaf sort of saw something in me, perhaps that my teachers hadn't seen throughout my education, and. So yeah, that's where it started. So I was an apprentice technician, but I also had opportunity to have experience throughout the whole business. And yes, it was, and I think it was those probably early days where I saw the owner of the business in his, in his nice suit and his fancy car, and thought there must be an easier way to earn a living than just on the spanners. But I had that. I still have that view today. I still remember seeing him and thinking, that's where I'd like to be one day.
And you worked your way up through the ranks on the sales side. And am I right in thinking you worked for Harrods Group, and you actually that's where your business started?
Yes, I mean I worked for Janssens, who. It was owned by Jan Fletcher back in the sort of mid-80s. They bought the Volvo business in Huddersfield that I worked for at the time, I was into sales and sort of fairly quickly and quite young as a sales manager. We in fact had both Saab and Volvo at the time, and yes, and I think Volvo were going through a sort of a territory reorganisation in the early 90s, and I got opportunity to go and work for the Harrods Group, who I think at that time had one, possibly two Volvo dealerships, and I spent many happy years with them. And then I think it was towards the perhaps back end of my time with them. I think I was probably as frustrating to them as they were to me, and I think weren't particularly going that well at the time, particularly within the Volvo side of the business of which I was responsible. And I took the opportunity to ask if they wanted to sell one, not expecting them to do that, and that started my journey with buying the Bradford business.
Yeah, and so you launched your business in which year? It was two. I think we did all the sort of hard work at the back end of 2007, and we got going January 2008.
And I think it'd be incredibly hard to probably do what I did then today. I got the backing of Volvo and Ford Credit, who were around at the time, and that got something. Then we quickly got into a recession, which was something that wasn't particularly within my business plan. So I think the business was quickly into a sort of survival rather than anything else. And I think we learned a lot from that. Which has certainly helped us over the last few months as well.
I mean, what a time to start a business on your own. I mean, I suppose it's as good a time as any, isn't it? If you can get through the 2007, 2008 recovery time period, then I suppose a lot of learnings to be had from that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a scrappy scheme that definitely helped, and I think Volvo had the right product at the right time with certainly with the C30, which was sort of helped an awful lot at those times. But ensuring we had a low cost base as well, and we did. That certainly helped us at the start. But yes, it's from selling. I think we the year before I took over, I think the Volvos were selling about just over 120 cars. In fact, it's almost the same as we sold in 1 month last month. So, certainly the town has seen certainly an increase in the sale of Volvos, that's for sure.
So, I mean, clearly there's a passion there for Volvo and for your experience, and in terms of the brand has experienced some challenging times in the period to the pre-acquisition by Geely. And was there ever a time when you sort of wish you'd had a different brand, a logo above your door and cars in your forecourt, or is it in terms of the new product now with the in the shape of the XC90, XC60, XC40, that the brand has obviously changed its proposition. I mean, you've just mentioned the C30 there and the cars of old, and what's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt the current range of cars are fantastic. I mean, they are the key factor for the increase in volumes that we've had. The people want a Volvo. I mean, that's very different to the we'll talk about when I started the business. I think people were happy to have a Volvo, but now certainly with XC40 particularly, people really want one. So there's that helps enormously. But I think Volvo, again, I suppose relative to the time, it has always been a sort of understated product in many respects, and that has helped. But yeah, to answer your question, I think I've been so busy I've sometimes not put my head up necessarily to look at. We've been happy with the brand that we've had, and yes, it could have been a very different story in terms of where Volvo are going with Ford and almost with Renault at one stage. So the investments that have been made have certainly paid off in terms of the product that we see today.
And Clive, moving on, like dealers around the UK, you closed your doors on the 23rd of March. Can you talk us through what the lockdown actually meant to your business? And in terms of, were you able to fulfill new car orders? Did after sales remain open? And also, how did the furlough scheme help you as a business?
Yeah, well, we had the option of keeping the workshops open. I took the decision at the time to close the business as a whole. I didn't feel that we could work safely together. We had a few days of trying social distancing, and we were not very good at it. So I think that was probably a key factor. They were very dark days. There is no doubt about it. It's as an owner driver, it was really, really not sure what was ahead of us. So, yes, of course, the furlough scheme helped enormously. In fact, everybody went onto the furlough scheme pretty much straight away. But yeah, I think those days, I really don't want to think too much about them. Very emotional, but we saw very quickly, in terms of the sort of online and calls that were coming into the business, could have been rerouted and answer messages taken, but we saw very quickly that there was a market. And so in terms of getting back to work, once the sort of 3 weeks, and I think we sort of went on the sort of almost the minimum amount of time, we got our workshops back open, and there was a timely recall as well. Volvo had put out a recall which customers were keen to they had nothing else to do, did they? So they were keen to get the car sorted out, and we did see in those early days, it was all key workers and essential car users. Well, all of a sudden, everybody became a key worker or essential user. So yes, I think we were delighted by customer response, and it did make. So we were back into sales fairly quickly because we've got a G-Forces and CodeWeaver set up, so we've got a full end-to-end solution in terms of customers being able to reserve online and even buy online. So very, very timely. We were seeing customers paying deposits for cars, reserving cars, not knowing when they were going to be able to take delivery of them. But we soon overcame that with click and collect, and I think we managed it very, very well. But there were some people who were happy to order cars and just sit and wait.
So, talking about Volvo, then, we've had a Volvo on with Christian, who I know you know very well. We're very close to his dealer network, but being as politically correct as you possibly can on a podcast, Clive, in terms of how supportive was Volvo during the lockdown period, because it was difficult, because the lockdown period affected Volvo themselves as well as not just the UK but globally, as well as the dealer network. And how was that between yourself, the dealer network, and Volvo throughout that lockdown period, which is, like you say, dark days and tough for everybody?
Yeah, I thought the communication was extremely good. I think that Christian and Matt and James held sort of weekly webinars, but they were also on the phone. And at the end of the day, it was dark days for them because they simply did not have a network, and I think you could sense the frustration. But I think there was a number of dealers that were very proactive, certainly including ourselves. Certainly from a personal point of view, I didn't see there was any alternative. And at the end of the day, it was customer led, but I think they did an excellent job. I think they've done an excellent job. Certainly in terms of removing targets and being supportive in terms of dealer payments, and I think we've all learnt a lot. I think I suppose what we're seeing now is the fact that I think a lot of lessons are learned. I think there's some friendships. I think there's probably greater understanding of everybody's role in getting cars to market. And so yeah, I hope I've answered your question. It was fantastic to see Christian come up to see us as well. That was a massive boost to my staff, because it says a lot in terms of what Volvo think about what we've achieved.
Now, Clive, as we've said, you reopened your doors a month ago now, and you've actually completed a record-breaking June in terms of new car sales with around 120 units sold, and also labour sales. And you've also sold over 70 used cars. Can you take us through how the month actually panned out for the business, and also what it meant in terms of your overhead absorption?
Yeah, I certainly officially reopening the showrooms was a much easier process for us, because obviously we, as mentioned earlier, we've been online anyway. I mean, both my showrooms had been giant service receptions for the previous month, so in some respects it was a question of just altering a few signs, and in terms of customer traffic flow. I mean, one of the things that we did get right from the start is that we turned our showrooms into a more of a VIP look, rather than a crime scene. And I think the crime, and I can understand,
Yes.
we've all, found, the use of sort of tape and things to direct customers, but I think we let pretty on. We had to maintain a pleasurable ownership and buying experience, and we definitely achieved that. Certainly with our friends at Rhino, because we ran a promotion. I mean, difficult times for that organisation as well, but we ran a promotion together, which was incredibly successful in terms of and really helped our relaunch at the beginning of June, because we'd run a by appointment event the previous week or so before. So I suppose to answer your question, Ted, so we built up a fair amount of. We did quite a lot of business in May anyway. We did have a lot of used car stock, which I'll come on to, or trade stock that we couldn't shift in May because there was no real market for it. Yeah. But certainly in terms of reopening, was fairly easy for us. Yes, we had managed to deliver about 40 new cars in May, in terms of customer orders that we couldn't supply in at the back end of March. Yeah. So we were where our success was that we've had a gradual reopening. So every day has been an education. Certainly in terms of absolutely amazing attitude from everybody that's been unfurloughed and come back, and everybody that's been unfurloughed and come back has been through an education process, because obviously in terms of training, but their cooperation and creative, because everybody has to be creative and take responsibility, because from a social distancing point of view, it's put a lot of restrictions on us. So one of the things that we did do was we made sure that we weren't totally over the top in terms of by appointment. We've seen almost on the same basis of turning a showroom into a crime scene. If you were not careful, you're turning customers away by... and I think we've managed this incredibly well. I mean, I think it is safe to say that our overall showroom visits are probably down about 50%, where we maybe see half a dozen customers a day, it's 2 or 3, but they are welcomed. We manage the process really well. We've done business because the customers may not necessarily have primarily wanted our product, but we've made the sales process really easy for them. So, we mustn't lose sight of that. But yes, I think we haven't had an issue with stock. I mean, certainly the marketing and the business that we did in May generated us quite a lot of our own parts exchanges. We only sell Volvo, so from a trade perspective, which obviously we should talk about dealer auction, but has been a phenomenal success, and I think obviously that's well discussed in the industry at the moment. That we have hugely benefited from our trade operation. So, and then as you said, in terms of low overheads, I mean, we still have suppliers who've given us some excellent terms, and obviously we've taken advantage of local council reductions in rates, etc. So, and I suppose that. I mean, sadly, I still have a number of staff that are still furloughed because we just simply don't have room. But your point in terms of absorption, we have managed incredible levels of productivity and efficiency because customers have been arriving on time and doing as they're told, and that's been not that may change, and we're probably seeing that change slowly. But having a car, being able to work on a car straight away, being able to find that car in the car park, and they're really, really basic things. But I can't emphasise enough in terms of some real champions in my team. I have got a number of long-serving members of staff. We do pride ourselves on being Volvo experts, and but seeing some leadership qualities from people perhaps that I'd not before, it's really brought out some exceptional performances, and some people who desperately need a holiday. I know they can't. There's nowhere to go at the moment. Hopefully soon. So yeah. Hopefully, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I guess as just a quick follow-up to that, because you did mention customers. Okay, you're seeing fewer of them in the dealership, but you're saying they're well behaved. What have your interactions with customers been like, and is it different now to before the lockdown?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no doubt about it. People are used to social distancing, and I think we've made sure, as I mentioned earlier, we have made sure it's absolutely priority that we make sure that the whole sales experience is pleasurable. Going to a supermarket is not pleasurable. It's okay to say we've all learned lots of lessons about social distancing, going through those sort of experiences. But when you are spending money at the level that we're asking for, then you've got to make it a pleasant experience, and you can do that with the maintaining social distancing without. So I think, I think customers need to be put at ease. We've done that, and we've made, and I think that's been a key part of the success that we've had.
So, there's obviously going to be some learnings, but thinking ahead, you've obviously great start since the restriction lifted, and some of those figures are impressive, and I very much you hope that those figures were the same every single month of the year with them kind of overhead absorption levels and volume levels. But what's your view on one, the pent up demand as you're seeing it at the minute, versus what we are potentially that new norm of demand, and how sort of Q3 and July and the remainder of 2020 may look. Putting aside risk of lockdowns and things like this, but what's your view on the length that the pent up demand will last, and sort of the remainder of the quarter, really?
Yeah, certainly some of the success we've had, particularly on the trade side, we wouldn't plan for. I think the certainly at this moment in time, a good as always, and it's all back to basics, isn't it? But certainly ensuring you've got a good website presence and making the customers' experiences as straightforward as possible. But you have to look to increase your conversion rates. We have seen a 20% increase in our overall leads. Obviously, more of those coming through online. But at the moment, I think yes, we will have a bit of a roller coaster. We've got to keep those expenses under tight control because there will be some lean months ahead. I think, as I've alluded to, I think the workshops have been busy, but, we have sold a lot of cars. Volvo sales have increased, year on year. So I don't particularly see that we should be worried too much from an after-sales point of view. From a sales perspective, we have got stock. I think certainly so, and we have got a reasonably good order take for September. So at the moment, if a customer wants a fresh factory order, it has to be September anyway. But there is quite a bit of stock in the network. So we're blessed in terms of having not always just the right car, but I'm sure between ourselves and Volvo, we'll find a way to get those cars to market. But I'm not sure if I can. I'm quite confident. People do want cars. And as we mentioned earlier, Volvo is possibly one of the right cars at the right time. I think what we are seeing definitely is more. Customers. Everything seems to be coming forward a little bit, if that's the best way of putting it. Customers are talking more about electrification and about hybrid, but there is still a lot of talk, and then the end of transaction still is a petrol or even a diesel, whilst they still last at the moment. So somehow we've got to get that product a little bit more affordable. But we have Volvo's in a good place in terms of those products coming. So I'm having been in the darkest place in April. Not getting carried away with June too much, but I'm positive about the market. Maybe as I've probably mentioned to you before, but perhaps sometimes you just have to have your own share.
Yeah, I'm going to say, for your perspective, looking at Volvo as a brand and the expectations and market share of Volvo in the UK, their sort of brand strategy, and then what your market share is of that brand within your territory market share, then that might be slightly different than some of the other operators with a bigger footprint and operating under different brands, of where their view of the market going ahead could be totally different, because we know certainly that Volvo's strategies compared to other OEM strategies are slightly different at the minute, aren't they? So I suppose it is for yourself, it's maybe a different answer than many others may give at this current time.
Now, Clive, last week, as though you didn't have enough on your hands, you launched the Voice of Volvo chat room. Can you just explain to listeners what it is and what prompted you to do it, and also what sort of response have you had so far?
Yeah, I have to say that very, very good response, and I think we've looked at this. There's so many different sort of media channels, aren't there? And I think I think I mentioned earlier in our chat that we are the Volvo experts, and we put a lot of certainly from a personal point of view, a lot of investment into every one of our staff being fully trained at the highest competence levels, and and a lot of my team, they're committed to the company, but they're very much committed to the brand as well, and there's a lot happening. So I think it was born out of an idea in a recent marketing meeting that I think we're also guilty of putting too many of our communications are about offers, and of course it's our job to tell the local our local community where to buy a Volvo, but there's so much more, and customers want to hear so much more about other aspects. Yeah. So that. Watch this space. I think some of this this recording may end up on there as well. I think I'm proud. A few years ago, I remember a customer coming into the showroom and asking a service advisor about a particular issue, and the service advisor said, "Oh, I'll talk to Volvo," and I could see the look on the customer's face, thinking, "Well, you are Volvo."
Yeah, exactly.
And I think yes, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about. I think that's and certainly there is going to be over the coming months. So that could be down to what we're doing or what's happening at the factories, etc. But yeah, it's certainly had a good response so far, anyway.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I think, like you say, it's what the customers want, really, and because you are the face of Volvo. to that customer. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's saying voice, not face.
Sorry, voice. Sorry, yes, it is a chat. The face-to-face is the service advisor that went off to talk to Volvo to get an answer for the customer. But yeah, so I mean, just finally, final question for you, really, in terms of plans for your business, and it's an odd question to be asking when you just you've got to the end of June, you've got out of the dark days of April and moved through May, and at the minute maybe it's a month by month or week by week basis, but you've kind of hinted on LinkedIn about a possible third site that may be still on the cards, and what could you sort of share your thoughts on that? And also, would you ever consider adding another franchise? I mean, bearing in mind, our earlier conversation about, your Volvo through and through, since the days on the spanners. What are your plans for the future for Clive Brook Volvo?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. I love to see people get on, and I've sort of mentioned it earlier in terms of my staff. I'm incredibly proud of the team that I've got, and certainly I have no intention of hanging my boots up in the near future. So certainly I think there's a team of people around me that want to see the business grow. However, you're absolutely right. The dark days of April certainly make you realise that when you look at the losses that can incur, even aside of the government support, we need some more months, more years, let's say, of strengthening the balance sheet. I think is the critical thing before we grow again. And we want to invest with Volvo. So, I mean, I wouldn't say never, because I think there's a lot changing, isn't there, in terms of different products coming to market, and if you look even within the Volvo stable, there's a lot of exciting things happening. So at the moment, to answer your question, it is very much, it is. We are back in a bit of a survival mode. I think that's the whole probably strategy at this moment in time. And let's get through 2020. So I probably haven't answered your question exactly.
Sounds like a political answer, but yeah, it's I suppose the answer is never say never, because you don't know, do you? At the end of the day, if something presents itself at the right time, then what, you're in business to do things.
Yeah, we love selling cars. We love selling cars. We love selling cars. We love the buzz. I think yes, there will be changes in the industry that I think sometimes people forget. How much fun it can be, and where the buzz actually comes from. But yes, certainly at this moment in time, it is survival. But fantastic product, fantastic team, and we've had a bloody good start in June.
No, I mean it's been a pleasure, and as I said right at the start, it's been a long time getting you on the podcast, and for me it's been a pleasure to get you on, and the tough times that you've been through, and I think the passion is there, obviously, in terms of that you're with a good brand. You're obviously you got that relationship with the brand, and I think that sort of strategy and growth with the brand, they don't always align, but I think at the minute they're not in a bad place, and I think it's great that you are actually getting some benefit from that pent up demand, and long may it last as long as it can at the minute, I think. So just from me personally, Clive, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking me, and I won't leave it as long next time.
Well, Clive, I joined Philip in thank you there. Many thanks for joining us and sharing your experiences and observations at this important time for car dealers around the UK. So we do wish you and the team all the best for the future.
And yes, we will have you back at some stage, so you can count on that. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for now. You've been listening to this special Motor Trade Radio podcast brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. Please like and share on social media, as it's important during these times for the dealer community to work together and share experiences and best practices. Many thanks to you for listening and supporting the podcast. Philip and I will be back with the industry headlines on Saturday, but do watch out for more special podcast interviews as we work our way through this crisis. Until next time, stay safe and stay well.